So, welcome to Spiritual and Mental Alchemy. I wanted you to all know why I'm doing this. What's my intention? When I'm working with all of you in session, it's one of those things where it's like we have to deal with the stuff of the day. And a lot of the time it's learning the tools, that fear into power tool, the timeline, understanding why we are where we are at the moment. So this particular class is designed for that kind of thing that we don't get to discuss in session. And it's to really have you fully understand by the time this is done what I mean when I say the first driver, because I think that in this moment in time, there's a lot of people that are struggling. They're struggling with relationships. They're struggling with financial situations. They're struggling with their health. And it has been a real interesting time for so many. Store. And for me personally, I think there's also this moment that we're in. If you know what the Schumann resonance is, that's the energy of kind of the earth. Come on in. Does it sound like somebody's there? Oh, that might be the other people leaving. Yeah, they are going. Oh, are you bringing them back? Thank you so much. You want to say hello? Little people here. Under. I love the little people, and she's just so cute. You taking your water away? You can go this way.
Come this way, Trent. Come on.
Good to see you again. Good to see you. Little people. So the energy that we're all experiencing right now, I'm telling you, it's like there's a lot of people that are going off the rails. And the reason why I wanted to create this group is for you to understand your power, understand that first driver, so that as we are in this moment of high energy, high stuff, that you're able to manage it in a new way, in a different way. So I want to start by saying that when we're doing all of this, a lot of it is going to be me sharing new information. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please raise your hand and let me know what those are, what's going on with you, but try to keep it a little on the brief side. And that's all I want to say about that part. So I want you to take a minute. So make sure everybody has paper and pen. And if you're watching this afterwards, same thing. Maybe pause this for a minute. And I want you all to write down, number one, what's your intention here? What is it that you want for you? And take a minute and write that down. Then the next thing that I want you to write down, who are you? I want you to literally write, I am. And then who are you? What are your beliefs around you? Who are you? And take a minute and write that down. I am. And then what follows that? All right. So the reason I want you to do this is because as we're moving forward, you're going to be wildly changing some of these things and you're going to expand on the others. So when we're talking about what we're doing here, as you all know, and I'm just going to repeat it, but I want you to really be with me on this. Remember the analogy about the car. This represents the body. All right, the car is just the body. The driver is the soul, and it is the first driver, that number one. That's what we're going to be discussing today. And for all of us, I want you to be the adult in the front seat. I really want you to be present and aware and just focused on what we're doing here. And then the child in the back seat, all of you know what that is. That's the one with the feels. So that child in the back seat, we're going to let him or her be available to hearing all of this and to be with the feelings and, just recognizing all three drivers. So many of you know, as you've seen me do it all the time, this is the controller. So when I'm asking you, who are you? What are your beliefs around you? That's a controller. And to be clear, it's not who you are, most of it. It's what you've learned to be. It's what you've learned to believe. It's what you've learned to have as habits. So when we're relearning all of this, you're investigating these beliefs around who you are, and you're gaining a new understanding, new beliefs, new information on who it is that you're choosing to be. So I want you to really get in the timeline. Today is a choice point, and it is a new choice point for all of us as you're learning this new information. So then you remember on top of the controller are those three buttons. So I ask you your intention because I want you to be very clear on what it is that you're looking to do for yourself right now. What is your intention, especially as we're starting this whole new year in 24? This on so many levels. When I was talking earlier about energy, we're in an energetic moment right now where we are able to really connect with that first driver in a way that many of us have never done before. And so I want to consider this an opening of that avenue so that you can really get how powerful you are and who you really are. So attention is that second button. Keep your attention here. And when you find yourself thinking about something or your attention veers otherwise, is it a question? Is it something that you want to talk about? Want to ask a question about anything or an insight, whatever those things are. But today, a lot of it is perception. So when I say perception, the reason why I bring this picture up is perception is everything. Your perception about who you are creates your reality. So when you believe that you are whatever, those are the things that you create. And for all of you, you know my story. When I was in my 0 to 8 and I had that belief that I was stupid, that's where I rolled. And so I want to talk a little bit about this because I want you to understand why it is that I'm here and doing this. So when I was a kid and I learned from my mom, I'm in the back seat of her car and she's like, yeah, she's cute, but she's not that smart. And she would literally call me the dumb one. I have it in writing. And so for the longest time, I had that label. Like Rusty, that's a label. It's not who you are, it's what you've learned to do. And for all of us, most of us, it's in that 0 to 8 program. So it's not what defines us, it's just what we believe. So I believed that I was stupid for all of those years. And I mean, I created from a stupid place. I made stupid decisions. I also felt like I was not valuable. I wasn't worthy. So I would make decisions based on that. I would get into all kinds of mischief and do stupid things. So then I had my own catastrophic moment and I started going to a therapist and I went to her for a year and I read every book that I could find. I did all this stuff because I was such a mess. And then after a year, somebody told me to start going to Agape Spiritual Center. So my perception, my beliefs around the first driver were really a mess. When I was a kid, I started going to church because I realized all the kids that I knew went to church and my brother and I didn't. So I went home and I told my brother, we need to go to church. And we went to a Southern Baptist church and I gave myself to God. And then as I got older, I started realizing they're saying one thing and they're treating me another. And there was a lot of hypocrisy. There was a lot of stuff that just didn't feel good. So when I became a teenager, there was a point where I just renounced it. And I thought, I'll go to a different church. I'll find God somewhere else. I'll find that higher part of me somewhere else. And it was even worse. I went to this church and I was wearing pants, and they were like, women shouldn't wear pants. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. And I was like, all right, we're done. And for the longest time, I literally renounced all of it. I wanted nothing to do with God. And God had not been answering my prayers. I was just like, mm-mm. I had a book, John Bradshaw. I remember so clearly. I opened it up and I was interested to read it. It was a self-help kind of book. And it said God. And I mean, I slammed that thing shut. So then fast forward, I'm in my disaster mode. And I went to Agape. And by this point, I understood maybe God wasn't that guy up there that wasn't answering my prayers and who was kind of punishing me on so many levels. Maybe it's something different. So I started going there, and it was where I became a spiritual practitioner. And so as I go there, they would tell me, Audrey, we're all connected. And I'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, no, we're all one. And I'd be like, I don't know about that, because you're over there and I'm over here. And if we're one, I don't get what you're saying. And I mean, it was really challenging for me to get the concept of what they were saying, right? So keep studying all of this. And around at a point, I meet Nick, and he's this energetic healer and he does all of these things. And I'm like, what is this? So I start taking his class, and he's got this class that he's doing, and you're learning your clairs, right? Your clairvoyance, clairaudience, whatever, all of these different gifts of seeing somebody's aura, or you can hold somebody's item and you can read things about them. And I'm like, I'm in practitioner training at this point. I'm his girlfriend and I'm not getting nothing. I mean, God's not moving through here at all. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is. And again, now I'm getting angry and I'm getting frustrated. And it's like, I don't get God. I don't get all of this stuff. And I just finally at a point was like, I'm just gonna let it go. And so then I started studying at the Hypnotherapy Institute, where I became a hypnotherapist. And that's where I really started understanding a lot more about the mind and about all the stuff that we do with that. And there was this one day where I was in the elevator there and I had this feeling, and it was like powerful. And it was like, wow, what is that? And it lasted for like maybe 15 seconds. But even now, my eyes are getting watery. It was like that first moment of feeling that presence flowing through me. And I was like, oh, what was that? I wanted it again, right? And I didn't even know what it was. So I finally finished with the hypnotherapy training, and then I started working in a rehab. And I knew working in a rehab that these people were not going to want to hear about the God thing. So I started studying a lot of science. And somebody turned me on to this, the Divine Matrix. I highly recommend getting it on Audible and listening to it. And that will take us further. And as you're listening to it, if you can listen to it this week, between this week and next week, if you have questions, that's where the magic happens. So when he's reading it for you, he'll say the things in science, and then he'll say, so what does that mean? And he's got all these keys in here. I mean, this was like profound. And why it was so profound is he's explaining what I had been trying to understand through Agape, what I'd been trying to understand through what Nick was doing. When I read this, it was the first time it was like, oh, I get it. And when I read this book, it was the first time that I was like, oh my God, I'm not stupid. I'm actually highly intelligent. And that perception, that belief changed everything like overnight. And I have been working and owning that intelligence from that point to here. So it's super important because when you have that awareness of what this space that we live in is an empty space. It is, I almost want to use the word magic, but we're going to look at that in the slides that are to come. So I want you to understand it on a greater level, because when we're creating with and in this space, that's where our power is. That is where the magic happens. So before I go into the slides, I want to give it as an example. Like you two are in here and there's no strings attached and we're looking at each other. I can see you, you see me, you see the slides. You see that on your computer, right? The slides, you don't need to see it behind me, right? So it goes like if you think about your cell phone, it's this little phone right here and there's no cords or wires attached. So we can pick up the internet, we can talk to people in Australia, and there's nothing attached. So we're very much like the cell phone. We pick up the internet. We are able to project into the internet. And so when you have that awareness, when you have that understanding, and that's what you're doing, there's your power. So let's look at what that looks like. I love this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's another one. He's an excellent, excellent read. So, what lies behind us and what lies ahead of us are tiny matters compared to what lives within us. So, you all have heard this, but I'm going to say it again. The analogy for all of this is the sun's up in the sky and the sun's being the sun, and the sun is the biggest thing around. If you look at the sun and then you look at the earth, the sun is just up there and it's just being itself. It's bringing in energy like we do, and it's putting it back out. And the sun's like, I'm all that. I am that I am. And when we're owning our power, we're being like the sun. And sometimes we're acting like the moon. So when we're having those moments that are extremely challenging, there's a part of it where why are we acting like the moon? And sometimes we're the dark side of the moon. So again, that's not who we are. That's where we land sometimes. And that's where we're going to grow. And that's where you're going to gain that understanding. So when you're looking at what's going on in your lives right now, I know all of you pretty well, and everything that you're dealing with, and those of you that are going to watch this afterwards, if you have these major things that you're dealing with, not who you are, it's what you're experiencing in the moment. And when they are big, major events, that's where you own your power. And especially when you're learning this piece, that's where you're majorly owning your power. So many of you have heard me talk about this person here, Paul Selig. I have been loving this channeling that he does. He channels the guides, and I love this part. So now the responsibility you each hold is to realize once and for all that love is not a personality construct, nor is it special to be handed to the special. It is the action of the Creator working as and through you in his own dominion, honoring all that he sees before him as a creation worthy of love. So when we're doing this part, when we're understanding and learning all of this, Nick has said it with his guides. And it's super important to get love is all that there is. And that thing that we put on our cups, fill the vessel with love. We all chose to come into these human bodies. And to be clear, we chose because it's an honor, it's a gift. It is for people who are not people, but souls that aren't coming into these bodies. It's like a gift to be able to feel the feelings of love, the feelings of joy, the feelings of all the things on this side. The fear feelings are to be learned from. So when you're having those moments of learning, make it okay to feel those feelings, learn from it, don't judge it. Mm-hmm. Own that compassion to be back with, I want to fill this vessel with love. I want to be that I am. And to be clear, everybody is worthy and valuable. Can I just say, in all the time I've been working with people, one of the most number one things is I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. That is an underlying program for so many people. So when you own that belief, it's a growing into it, because there'll be stuff that will challenge you. As an example, I had a huge moment when I had that kidney stone. And that kidney stone was all about, I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. And when I understood that and I was able to let the energy flow through me and let that go, then I was able to own my value and worth. And that's why I can sit here and do this. So I want you to write down on paper, on that paper in front of you, whatever it is that comes out that I am valuable, I am worthy, I am. What are those things that you want to write that you are stepping into? Maybe sometimes we don't feel it to the extent right now, but I'm telling you, you write that down. And I'm going to ask you to, when you get up in the morning, take a deep breath first thing. Own that power statement. I am that I am. That flows through here. That makes me valuable. That makes me worthy. Everything. That is a strong way to wake up and face your day. Any questions at this point? Yeah, Kai?
So it's one thing to understand these things, and I've mentioned this on some of our personal sessions, but how do you get to the point where you actually truly believe it and you feel valuable and you feel fulfilled and you feel connected?
I'm
Because
telling you, it is a process. It took me, and that's why I'm going to do this. This is why I'm doing this. It took me years to get to that point. So that's why I'm saying do this. When I say do this, that's where you take those action steps. So, like when you get up in the morning, take a deep breath. God flows through here. And with the information that I'm going to share with you tonight, you're going to own that part of it. You're going to understand you in a new way. So each day, you step a little bit more into it and a little bit more into it. And then, like I had that day in that elevator, what's this? And now I feel it all the time. And I'm going to get into that. So it's a process, but it's one of those things where, like when I was with Nick at the beginning, I was looking to effort it. I wanted to be that so much. It's like, this isn't fair. Everybody else gets to own that, and I'm not. So when you are doing this, it's not an efforting, it is an allowing. I'll give you another example. And this is another moment that I had when it really clicked in even more. I was having a time and I went into my backyard and I looked up at the sky, and it's about the feelings. I'll say a word, but I'm telling you, it's about that feeling in your heart. It's allowing. So I stood out there in my backyard and I said, yes, I'm open to the more that is. I'm open and I'm available. Lead me, show me, guide me, flow through here. So I'm open and I'm allowing and I'm saying that big yes. So say yes now. Say yes within yourself that as you learn this new information, as you gain a greater understanding about who you are, that you are continually stepping into it and it gets greater and greater and greater. It's a process. And again, it's not an efforting, it's an allowing. So let's look at what that means. I love this little slide. So when you're owning your power, you're owning that part of you that's love, you're owning your health, you're owning your abundance, and your happiness. These are what I consider the four corners of our life. So when you are understanding all of this, it starts to create where all of these things get in the flow. And you are in the flow of life rather than getting stuck in those challenges that we all get stuck in. And to be clear, I used to be stuck in them for a while. Now I have something that happens. I'm trusting, I'm allowing, I'm being guided by what I'm about to talk about, and I don't get stuck in these things. I let it go. All right. So this is a little from this fellow Greg Braden. Now we're going to get in a little bit of the science of all of this. We're creators, and even more than that, we are connected creators. Through the divine matrix, we participate in the constant change that gives meaning to life. The question now is less about whether or not we're passive observers and more about how we can intentionally create. Of the many ways we could define the divine matrix, perhaps the simplest is to think of it as being three basic things. So when he talks about the divine matrix, it's all these different words. And to be clear, when I was first learning all this, God was like not something that I wanted to use as one of my words. Source intelligence, divine matrix was one of them. I mean, there's a gazillion different words that you can use for this energy that flows in and as and through all things. So we're going to get more into what that means. And if you have a word for it, let me know what your words are, because I always like to hear, people's, you know, sometimes, and for me personally, I don't like to put a word to it because it's so huge. God is literally there's a book that Greg Braden wrote and it's called The God Code, and we literally have that in our DNA. Literally God in our DNA. And if you want to read that book, it's very interesting. But for what we're doing tonight, this what he calls the divine matrix is the container for the universe to exist within. So this is everywhere present. There's nowhere that is not this intelligence. And it's the bridge between our inner and outer worlds. The mirror that reflects our everyday thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. So it's everywhere present. Let me move this. It already exists. It originated when creation did, and it appears to have intelligence and it responds to the power of human emotion. So it's quantum intelligence. And how do we create with that? So I put this picture here because when I'm connecting, when I'm being that presence, and I'm looking to have that soar through me and have that kind of feeling that I like to have, I like to go to the beach. And I just did the other day, and it was insane. I'm telling you, I was able to walk through all of my caves. I was sitting in them. But when I'm in it, and I want you guys to do this with me, I want you to shut your eyes and uncross your legs and sit in a very comfortable position. So when I'm sitting there in those caves, I take a deep breath. And as I'm breathing in that breath, I'm allowing and I'm opening up. I'm not getting caught up in the thoughts of the day or the things that are happening, the things I'm worried about, or any of those fear feelings. I'm just in the moment of right now. And I want you to think about the earth energy that's underneath us. So take a deep breath and imagine that energy coming up from the earth and coming up in through your body, and breathe that in and up. And just allow that feeling of being grounded and centered and focused and calm. And breathe it in some more. Breathe it in and up, allowing the Mama Gaia energy to just be present and flow through and as you. And allow that to just loiter in your heart, opening up your heart. And now take another deep breath, and I want you to imagine the universe, the expansiveness of all that is, and breathe that down into your body. And that's that expansiveness. That's your connection to source, your connection to your higher self, your connection to all of these major things that are happening in this space that we don't see. So take another breath and breathe that in and into your heart, and let your heart expand. Let your heart be calm. Let your heart be in that love. And just take another breath and breathe that in, and notice how you feel. Notice the calm. Notice you're being grounded and centered and present. Nothing else matters in this moment, just that connection. And just allowing. So when you get up in the morning, you can do that. And if you are able to go outside and sit somewhere on some grass, that's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to do at the end of your day as well. Really connecting and opening up. So, Kai, when you ask me, how do we do that? There's all these little practices that you can do throughout the day where you are connecting, where you're bringing that in. Okay. And why is this important? The heart, like the brain, generates a powerful electromagnetic field. The heart generates the largest electromagnetic field in the body. So I want you to think about it when I'm asking you to breathe it into your heart. Your heart's the most important thing. Your heart literally has its own little brain in there. Your heart is connected to the inner part of you, like Greg Braden was saying, and it connects us to the outer part. So when we are feeling from that love, when we're feeling from that creative space of source, then you are owning more of your power. You're owning that part of you that talks to what we're going to get into in a minute, those 50 trillion cells that make up you. So this is from Heart Math. Through the use of spiritual practices that encourage positive emotions, individuals can effectively begin a repatterning process to create change with habitual emotional patterns that encourage the illusion of fear. So, what does that mean? I think I wrote that wrong at the end. When you're doing this and you are owning that space in your heart and you're continually practicing this and you're doing the things that we're about to say and you're continuing that as a practice on a regular basis, you can't help but own that place within you. And then I want to explain something about this. And this is in that book, The Divine Matrix. So I want you to really understand how powerful it is with your heart. When Hold on. They have these experiments that science is doing that this has been for a while now. I created this part of the PowerPoint years ago. So I want you to think about this. Your heart is always, always producing electromagnetic energy. And when it's attached to your thoughts, when it's attached to those feelings, you're talking in this quantum intelligence. So they did an experiment where they took somebody like you, Camille, and they take some of your DNA and they put it into a sealed container, and they have a thing like this hadron collider where they're able to look at all of these photons, neutrons. So they're able to look at your energy. And then when they put that in there, there's all of this stuff that's happening. There's photons, there's a plethora of stuff that the scientists can look at. So they put you into this machine. And when they first put the DNA of the person, their energy, in there, all these things had been floating around doing nothing. And then they put it in there and they start organizing in patterns. So imagine they take you and they're showing you videos of things that create feelings in your heart. So imagine that they're creating a video where you're looking at something and you feel terrified. Those photons start to change shapes each time you go from like terrified to feeling happy, to feeling anxious, to feeling, calm, whatever those things are. So they're able to look at, you're here, the machine's over there, and each time that the feelings are changing, the energy is changing within the machine. Then it gets even more interesting because they have you in a van or whatever. They're moving you as your feelings are changing, and they're still changing within every second. And they move you like 350 miles away from the machine, and they're still changing. So when we're feeling with those thoughts attached, we're creating in this quantum intelligence. And why is that important? When our feelings are moving in this space, we're creating in that source. So whether you're creating from your fear feelings or from your what we call power feelings, it doesn't matter. The universe is always right there saying yes to those feelings. So this is kind of the science around it. So here's another example of it. The universe, our world, and our bodies are made of a shared field of energy that was scientifically recognized in the 20th century and is now identified by names that include the field, the quantum holograph, the mind of God, nature's mind, and the divine matrix. So when you're looking at all of this, if you were to relate it to like this computer that we're all on in some way, shape, or form here. So when you're looking at it, it's like the energy is that thing that's going around, and we're using it to connect with each other like this. The operating system is that part of us. And so when you're understanding that our operating system, what we're doing is creating into this, that's why our beliefs around who we are and what we're creating in and as are so important. Is everybody with me here? Is this all making sense? Any questions? Okay. Here's another way to look at it. There have been these satellites that are out in the orbit, and this is a long time. It's been years and years now. So these satellites have been in the orbit, and they're monitoring electromagnetic energy on the planet. So on this one day in particular, the scientists are looking at the graphs and they're looking at it and they're understanding it. And you see what day it was. On 9/11, it went off the charts. Why? Because everybody is experiencing terror, rage, all these different feelings that came up on that day. So that's another example of it. And again, this is all the science around it. I'm not going to read all of what I wrote here because it really gets into the science, and I don't need to go into such detail around it. Yeah. But I wanted you to understand how important it is when we're talking about our connection to source. We're connecting with this universal intelligence all the time, and science can see all of this. So when you're interested to study more about it, you can go into heartmath.org. You can go into any of these, like Greg Braden, he's got a whole website on it. You can look at all this information for more details of it. But it's super important to get, we're not just this car. We're not just this thing right here that's driving. We're connected to much, much more. And this is what I was talking about with how we're connecting. It's just a different picture of it.
That it's funny.
Hmm.
I saw Nick today. It's like this power that I felt went in there, and he just looked into my eyes, and because I felt like a victim throughout the whole week. And because of my trust and belief that I was led to you both today, I felt that he just looked into my eyes and said, "You're not a victim. You're not a victim." And like my mind and the energy that I felt, it kind of like felt like that today, and I was really grateful because he kind of snapped me out of it.
Well, again, that goes back to our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So there is things that people will do all the time, and we can be at the effect of whatever that is. We've all been at the effect of something in some way, shape, or form that another person has done. And we've all been that person that has been affecting other people. So it's again, when you understand this information and you stand in your choice point of now, whatever happened here, when you get who you are and you get, I'm not the victim, I have every ability to rise above this, to learn from this, to grow from this, and to literally change the trajectory of what it is that's going on. But we have to be clear on what that looks like, and we have to be really understanding the why. The why would you do it? And this is an interesting thing, and I'm going to say it because I see it too much of the time. There's a lot of times where I don't want to do it for me. I want to do it because I want something. I want someone. I want whatever that thing is. So if I do the thing, I'll get that. And it's super important. It's all about you. It is all about you and living in that highest part of you and using your highest to be the fullness for you and then getting what you want. So when you are being the victim to somebody else, whatever that looks like, sometimes we'll be angry about it and we'll be in that victim anger, or we'll be in that victim sadness, or whatever the thing is. On the other part of it, and this is where we own our power, is when you go into that righteous. And why would I do this? Why would you do it? Because you want to fill this vessel with love. You want that feeling. I'm telling you, you're going to get to that feeling, and it's an all over, full body feeling of deep appreciation, deep joy, and not needing anything outside of you. It's nice when you're getting something outside of you, but when you come from being the sun, being the fullness of you, that's what the picture looks like. This right here is how it feels. You are connected on all ways. So when you be that fullness of you and you understand that part, then you're coming from I am that I am, and everything else is the icing on the cake. Do you know what I mean? It kind of brings me to that idea that people say, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Who said that? And why would you have a cake and not eat it? But you can be the icing, can have that icing on the cake, but you're the solidness of it. Does that make sense? Okay.
It was pretty magical when he said that word righteous. I remember what you said, and I said, and it was just a different electrical. I needed it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now
that's
it's
the
making sense that it's now making a whole thing the way you're saying it.
That's why I bring the science into it. That's why I do what I do here, because when I was learning from Agape, I didn't get it, you know, and then when I understood the mental part of it through the Hypnosis Institute, I got more and I had that little inkling. But when I studied all of this, then it was like, oh, that's what this is. And this is who I am. So here's another part of it that's wildly important. Your DNA is no more physical than other parts of your body. It is made of energy, and you can change its energy patterns through a change of awareness. You were born with some predispositions that will determine how your body turns out. Yet, as you inject your own desires, habits, and intentions, a fixed trait will turn out to be very malleable. A mere wisp of desire and is enough to change or affect DNA. And I wrote over here, how ironic that the two things that medicine thought were fixed, the brain and DNA, turn out to be the keys for reinventing the body. This is again from Deepak Chopra. I actually did a whole workshop on him, change your body, change your life. I'll if somebody wants to remind me, I'll share that with you next week. When we form heart-centered beliefs within our body, in the language of physics, we're creating the electrical and magnetic expression of them as waves of energy, which aren't confined to our hearts or limited by the physical barrier of our skin and bones. So clearly, we're speaking to the world around us in each moment of every day through a language that has no words, the belief waves of our heart. In addition to pumping the blood of life within our bodies, we may think of the heart as a belief to matter translator. It converts the perceptions of our experiences, beliefs, and imagination into the coded language of waves that communicate with the world beyond our bodies. Actually, this is Greg Braden. This is what I try to tell you all in sessions all the time. When you're feeling and you have a thought attached to it that says, I'm not enough, I can't do this, I'm stupid, I created from a place, I'm feeling that, I'm thinking that, and I'm literally telling the universe, let's bring situations up for me that challenge that stupid or that acknowledge that stupid. The attention is on stupid. So when we have a belief around who we are, it's not who we are, it's what we think. It's what we are believing. So, like Rusty, when you had that belief at the very beginning of this, that's not who you are, it's what you've learned. And many of us learn these things from the 0 to 8. It's the program. So if somebody had told me I wasn't stupid, I would have been like, I have street smarts and I can function in life. But I literally said this at Agape. I'd be like, no, I'm not intelligent. I'm kind of cute sometimes, but I have street smarts. But no, I'm not. And it was so ingrained. It was the unconscious. So I'm literally acting from it. And the valuable part of it, that part of not being worthy, I can't even tell you some of the stupid things that I did. I was unaware that I'm unaware. So whether you get labeled this or that, I can't even explain to you how many people come in and they're like, I'm bipolar. It's like, are you really? And then they start understanding they have had a lot of trauma. Their car hits a wall and they don't know how to deal with those traumatic emotions. They don't know how to deal with the trauma. So they dissociate and they're not 100% in the car. I can't handle emotions. I'm going to put them over there. I can't handle trauma. The amount of people that have said to me, I can't handle conflict. So they don't talk to people. And then they're creating these scenarios out of that. The amount of things that we do that are unconscious, it's not who we are, it's literally what we are creating in this quantum intelligence. Because it's not just here in this human body, it's we're creating a path. We're creating as an example, here you are right now. Tomorrow morning, all of us are going to do something, or tomorrow at some point, you're going to get in the car or you're going to go out of your house, you're going to go somewhere and you're going to say, I'm doing this. Like, for instance, I'm going to leave here. I'm going to get on the freeway. I'm going to take a little short drive and I'm going to go to my new home. And then I'm going to sit down with Nick and we're going to look at the day and whatever. And that is going to happen. But how many times do you have this idea in your head and you're not intentional about it? And you're thinking, like, for instance, I've had many people over the years, I can't get a relationship going, or I can't get a job, or I can't do this, or I'm afraid I'm going to have this happen, or I'm stuck, or whatever those things are. The feelings and the thinking are literally creating a roadmap ahead of us. So when you're understanding, I am that I am, and I'm creating in this divine, cosmic, amazing intelligence, and I get to create with, co-create with, and you're feeling that feeling and you're trusting and you're having faith. I'm telling you, miracles show up. I see it all the time. So when you're looking at all of this, it's important to really understand this part. I want to say this again. In addition to pumping the blood of life within our bodies, we may think of the heart as a belief to matter translator. It converts the perceptions of our experiences, the perceptions, the beliefs of our experiences, beliefs, and imagination into the coded language of waves that communicate with the world beyond our bodies. And again, Kai, this is a practice to get this information, to understand it, and then really own it. And the more that you own it, the more these miracles start showing up, the more it's like, wow, I am wildly creative. And by the way, that is a great affirmation. I am wildly creative in this universal intelligence. It flows through me as me, and I create with this. Keep owning that.
Can you say that again?
Pardon?
I am wildly creative.
I am wildly creative in this universal intelligence. It leads me, it guides me. So when I put it out there to my higher self, because there's a part of this, it's another part of it. It's like, here I am in this human body, and there's just a little bit of our energy that flows. I see you, Kai. There's a little bit of our energy that flows in and as this human body. Most of us is there, along with our guides, along with all of this stuff. When you work with Nick, he tells you your guides this and that, and he gives you all this information. So when I'm here in this little human body and the adult me is saying, guide me, lead me, show me the road signs along the way, I'm trusting, I'm having faith, and I'm opening up to what is that thing. So I want you to get this, because this is going to challenge you right here, what I'm about to say. Sometimes when we have these really hard moments of life and we're like, in it, we've all been there. Those are those moments when the universe, when your higher self is like, you need to get this. You need to wake up. You need to understand who you are and how you create. So when it feels really, really bad, that's when you can, like, I've had those moments. Nick and I had a moment a few years ago, and I looked at him at one point, was like, we're really growing right now. At this jacked up moment. It was awful. And I looked at him and it was like, we're getting it, for God's sakes. And that was a turning point for us. That's when we were able to do things that we had not done before. And we kept having this challenge with these things. That was the turning point. That's when we were able to look at the timeline and be like, all right, this is where we are massively growing. And we did. Kai, what's your question?
Yeah, my question was, when you're creating things and you're creating new beliefs, and like I'll give you an example. Like if there's something that I want in life, like let's say it's money, or in my example, let's say it's Kim for whatever reason. You know, how well, like when I'm meditating or getting connected within the divine matrix and with God and with the spirit, it's like, or like let's say if I'm wanting to have financial success, how do I attract that and create positive beliefs around it, knowing and trusting that it's going to happen without thinking about it all the time?
I'm
Or
going to give you an example of that.
because it's like I'm thinking about I'm not having it instead of creating it. And you know what I mean? And it's like it's almost like a negative, it's coming from a negative, and I don't know how to get rid of that.
I'm going to give you an example of that. There's when you're doing this and you are putting it out there, and these are power statements. My best and highest is happening. And I am creating the grandest, like as an example, somebody wants an amazing house or an amazing relationship. Let's go with an amazing relationship. And there's a part of it where in your mind, you think that's an amazing relationship. But what if your higher self is like, it looks like an amazing relationship, but in 6 months, it's going to be all kinds of jacked up. It's going to be whatever. When we think this is what I have to have, and you're coming from that place, you're kind of putting the universe in a box. You're saying, I want this box. And the universe is like, well, you can have the box, but what if there's something that's so outside the box, that's so ridiculously amazing? And you're coming from the fullness of you. And so you're doing what I said earlier. You're owning, I am that I am. And the universe loves me. I say that all the time. I literally do. I go around and it's like I get this expanded idea. Whoa, yeah, I'm going to do that. The universe loves me. When you're doing this, if you're coming from need, when you're coming from desperation, when you're coming from, I really want that because that completes me, then that's not your best and highest. Danica.
So, like a lot, I feel like with manifesting, they always say you need to be very specific on what you want and be very detailed on what you want. Like you can't just be like, I want a house. It's like, what does your house look like? What neighborhood does it live in? What color is your house? Like, but you're saying that puts the universe in a box. Like, I'm not
You
sure.
can be very specific. And to be clear, you can do a vision board. But again, you can't come from, I don't have this, I really want this. You have to be clear on the feelings around it. Sometimes people are like, I really want this house. And then unconsciously, there's lack, limitation, there's doubt, whatever those things are. There's all kinds of stories of people creating a vision board. And there's this one guy in particular, he had a house on that vision board. I really got to have that house. And then he didn't get the house. He didn't get the house. He put the vision board away. He kept owning that dream, manifesting, bought the house. In the moving, he found the picture and he had bought the house that he put on his vision board.
Oh, wow.
You can be very specific, but like with another person, what if that other person isn't where you are? And then you're coming from, I've got to get her. I have to win her. I have seen disasters happen with that. So the reason why I'm asking is if you put on your intentions. I'm creating a partner that has like my list: character, morals, integrity, a passion for what they do, the ability to love and be loved. They're interesting and interested and all of those things. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't specifically say it's going to be this person or that person. Everybody knows when I met Nick, there was a part of it. It was like, well, wait a minute. I don't know that this is exactly what I was thinking about. He's short, for God's sakes. Belief. And then when I was able to step back and look at, I never put that on my list. And Spirit guided me to him. Spirit guided him to me. He literally dreamed about me. That wouldn't have been where I would have looked at him and been like, you're it. But it was intended. And I didn't have that specific with it. So it turned out where here we are now, 24 years later, still very much in love. So you can do it however you want to do it, but you have to keep paying attention to the underlying, if you have any limitations, any doubt, any, any part of you that it's like, I've got to win this thing, instead of it's just allowing that to happen as you're in the actions of creating it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Kai?
But I think the hard part with that is just that the hardest part is just time. Like,
well, see, there it goes.
Allowing it to like allowing, but then understanding that like it's really not on your timeline.
But here's that is an interesting one, because here you are in the choice point. And again, intention, got it set. Attention, the amount of people that I work with, and this is an interesting thing. So I want you to think of it like this. Here you are in your energetic car, and you're saying, I'm creating this great thing, and it's in San Francisco. So it's in San Francisco, and you're owning it, and you're telling the universe, I've got this great job, I've got this great partner, I've got this great whatever all these things are. This is what I'm creating, and my best and highest is happening, and I'm on it. This is great. This is fantastic. And as you're driving, people have a tendency to be like, it's not happening. And there goes your attention. There goes your feelings. And so you've taken a detour. And you have to look at, what am I thinking? Where is my feelings on this? Am I frustrated? Am I worried? Am I in doubt? What are the feelings that are creative here? So then when you understand that, it's like, all right, the universe loves me. I'm owning it. I'm in the greatest thing ever. It's not about time. It's never about time. There is no time. So if you want to get there faster, many of you have heard this story. I'm going to say it again. I had this guy that was out of work for a long time. He was a mess. I watched him get what he had been wanting for over 3 years. And how he got it, he saw what he wanted. And he had this job that he was specific about. And he was a CTO. I mean, a big deal kind of guy. And I saw him, I told him, the energy of appreciation is like putting your foot on the gas, and it's like rocket fuel. And I watched the guy get the job. He would look at me. He was like, Audrey, I got the job. It's fantastic. Oh my God, it's all these things. And I got it. I got the job. And I was like, he got it. And I felt it. I literally felt it. And I was like, this is amazing. And then he looks at me and he said the thing. Oh, a lot of times somebody like me, the job's in another state. I was like, shut up. Not 2-3 days later, he got a job in Texas. He hadn't had a job for 3 years. He'd been putting out applications. He'd been doing all this stuff. Nothing was happening. He literally energetically felt it, owned it. It was like solid. And he got the job. And he put all of that into source energy. I got it. It's fantastic. But you have to keep looking at and being authentic with yourself. This is one of the things with all of this. when I say dissociative, sometimes we're not authentic with what is going on with our feelings. And we're coming from whatever the habit has been, whatever the amount of time has been. Like I've been working with somebody who, I'll tell you a powerful story. I've been working with this person who had a stroke like 9 years ago. And he came in and now just had his 7th session. I don't mind sharing this because it's such a powerful story. He had the stroke, and then I'm telling you, it was like a mess. He was in the hospital. It was like hard ass moment. It was like his car went off the rails completely. It was a bad, bad moment. And so for 8 years, he had a belief around himself and he had a belief around his mind. Now, his brain had been affected by the stroke, but because he had this thing happen and it really had a massive effect on his body, he had a perception of himself. He had a belief around who he was. So he comes in for that first session and I start understanding him a little bit more, start talking about it. And then I looked at him and it's like, I think you might think that your mind is not okay. But from what we're talking about, I think your brain might have been affected, but it didn't affect your mind. You're solid. One thing led to another. He started understanding all of this. He started changing his beliefs. He started doing all this stuff. He's like a whole nother person. It's like he owned a whole nother thing. So you got to remember, if we have something that happens and we get stuck in that, whatever that is, whatever the habit of it is, whatever the stuff of life is, there's a part of it where you have to keep stepping back and looking at, where is my feelings? Where is my thoughts? And important, do I own this connection? Am I connected to that higher part about me? Am I connecting with that, or am I stuck in this moment? And to be clear, nothing wrong with any of it. It's all a process of life. But the reason why I say all of this is because when you're here and you keep being lined up, when you keep allowing and telling the universe, let's fix what this has been. Help me, help me. Help me let whatever go. Help me. You're connecting and you're not coming from the just humanness of you. You're coming from that higher part of you. You're telling that higher part of you, show me where to go. I've done that many times. I've had these moments where I'm like, oh, for the love of God, I don't like what's happening here. So I have to be authentic with myself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What is this thing? And making it all okay, because it is, it's all okay. So when I'm making it all okay, I'm saying, I've been a little angry about this. I've been holding on to that. I'm being frustrated about whatever these things are. I have my own stuff. But when I allow that higher part of me to be present, then the answers come quicker. Then the solutions show up around me. I'm telling that higher part of me, show me the path, show me the way, show me where to go. And I'm not coming from that ego part of me. I'm not coming from my kid in the backseat that's frustrated or angry or whatever the thing could be. Does this all make sense? So Kai, to finish it, there isn't a time frame. There isn't this thing where it's like it has to happen at the moment. When you're looking at this, you're saying, I am the love of my life. And that's a big one for all of us, because when you're looking for something outside of you, then it's really hard to be the love of your life. And when you are the love of your life, and you're in that and you're complete and you're feeling, that's another way that we connect. So when I feel that love for all these 50 trillion cells, when I feel that love soaring through me, for that part of me, for God, for source, whatever you want to call it. I allow that to be my love. I had a situation, and I'm going to put it in a nutshell. I had a moment where I was not feeling loved. And I literally put it out to the universe. Why is this that I keep not feeling loved in whatever regard? And I came here and I meditated one morning. And the universe, I asked, please show me this thing. And it was amazing. There's Kleenex in there, in that shelf, in that first cabinet.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, the universe showed me, and it was like this wave of understanding, this wave of like, oh, you put all of this in front of me so I could feel like this, so that I could understand the love that I am and what all of this looks like. I'm not going to go into all the details of the story, but when you're having a moment and these things come up in life that challenge us. When I was a little girl, I learned never to ask for anything and not to accept things. Just how I was raised. And so in learning all of this, one of the hardest parts for me has been to ask. And literally within the past, I want to say even 2 years, I finally started asking. So when there's a moment where this challenges, I'm talking to source and I'm asking my higher self, I'm asking the first driver, for the love of God, please, what is this? Why is this continuing to be a struggle for me? And then I'm allowing this intelligence to come through and for me to see it clearly, so that I can let go of yet another layer of my lack of worth. Because it's not who I am, it's what I learned along the way from various experiences. So then I'm allowing that answer to happen. It happened that morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like freedom. So again, if you're being very specific, it's like, I have to have that. Why? Why is that so important? And you're asking yourself those critical thinking things. You're understanding where the thoughts are, where the feelings are, what is being created here. Does that make sense?
So Audrey, my intention was, because I put myself out in the market, right? My intention was to find someone again, maybe, I mean, not for one person, but another person. But Saturday I realized my intention is not to live in a box again, not to be in jail. So that last date I had with David, I saw in his eyes that I will be in a box again.
Yeah.
So does that refer to the intention that I want to, that I could be happy in that situation because he will take care of me, but it's not the right timing. But I chose the joy in my heart because I valued myself. Like, it's making sense why that I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I just said thank you, because I saw that I was going to live in a box again that I've been living for 40 years.
So
I
then
want to be that again.
Yeah.
So I could be happy there because I can adjust and I can make myself be all of these things again because I've done it.
But here's the thing. Why would you need to adjust?
I don't want to exactly. That's why I said when I looked into his eyes and I said, oh no, that's another box.
So when you're looking at all of that and you have the awareness, then what you're doing is you're saying, oh, I see it. I get it. I'm not going to live in a box. Intention, I'm going to live free. I'm going to live expansively, and I'm going to have a relationship with somebody where we're the sons together and we're living free and we're honoring each other's experience,
Yeah.
however
Yeah.
that looks like.
Yes, however that may look. I mean, it's not soon, but I certainly don't want to live in a box again.
Yeah.
I
So then
don't
you've got to
get the
take the
joy.
idea of the box out. It's
Yeah.
done.
It's
So you're
done.
looking at your timeline. I'm in the choice point.
Mhm.
I see what happened back there. It was good for when it was. I learned a lot. I had a lot of great experiences. And I see now clearly,
Mhm.
because I'm not there anymore, that 2020
But
vision.
you pointed out something very important to me today. Camille, you are attracting those people.
Yeah,
What are you about to change of your what is part of you that you need to change so you don't attract those people again?
exactly.
Yeah.
Because your feeling and your thinking, I don't want to live in a box, can literally create the relationship. This guy shows up and he's the box.
Yes.
So that's why it's super important. You're here,
Mhm.
you're talking to this quantum intelligence. You're
Yes.
creating either consciously
Mhm.
or unconsciously.
Yes.
And just the idea of the box creates from the box.
Is it with those um, uh, technique and necessary things for my mind, the manifestation that she says is also as important because that's how I'm thinking in my self, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So that's why it's important to really be with the feelings.
mhm.
You know, the feelings are everything, and to make every single feeling okay. All the feelings are okay. But when we're not challenging them and we're just allowing those feelings, whatever it is, or just these ideas, I don't want to live in a box.
Mhm.
There goes the attention, and the feeling is I don't want to be smothered. I don't want to be whatever those things are. So when you bring the feelings back to, oh, this is great. I am creating the love of my life right here. And the love of my life, I am being in love with this other person, whoever the person is.
For me first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And Kai, I think this is something that I think your generation, there's a lot of. It's like when you're coming from the fullness of you, then you're creating a relationship, you're having the fullness of them. And it is, again, all of this is a process.
Mhm.
Danica, how are you doing? It's a lot. It is a lot. And Rusty, how are you?
Uh, I'm just flowing right now with ideas and adjustments and history, and I've got like 4 pages of notes. It's flowing.
Good. Good. We have about 8 more minutes. I'm going to wait and do this next slide next week. Wayne Dyer said this next quote, and it's important to get this. You want to begin to see yourself as a soul with a body rather than a body with a soul. And when you all are connecting, here's some of your homework. Getting up in the morning and literally starting your day breathing in the breath of God. Breathe it into your heart, literally telling the intelligent universe, look, I'm open. I'm looking to be whatever those things are. What are your intentions? Leaving those intentions expanded. Breathing in and telling your higher self, look, put on those lights that are going to lead me to where it is that I'm going. Turn on the inside light for me so I can see clearly where my feelings are, where my thoughts are. Asking that higher part of you to literally be your guide, telling them, look, I don't have all the answers here in my little humanness. I am asking. That's why I said it took me forever. And once I started asking, it opened it up and it made it all quicker. So you're telling that higher part of you, I am available, I'm asking, and I'm expecting the answer.
Mhm.
And you're tuning into this quantum intelligence. It's literally a thing. So when you think I'm just this little human body, I'm not, I can't, I whatever. When you're coming from being the adult and you're driving the car, yeah, sometimes it is really hard. And especially when the kid in the back seat is screaming and you're like, shh, got the window up. I don't want to hear those emotions. I don't want to know what those things are. That's where all the answers happen. So you can't just be the adult and now I'm going to tap into my higher self, that first driver. It takes all three to make it happen. You got to remember the kid in the back seat, he's the spontaneity, she's the joy, she's the, that innocence of everything. So it is a triune of the three to make all of this work. So your homework is let the kid play, do those things that are fun, be the adult in the front seat and communicate with that one. Communicate with that one. You're the medium man, the medium woman. You're that person that is able to do the discerning, do the logic, do the reasoning to make all of this happen. And I want you every single day, in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, find anything to appreciate, anything that you can open your heart to appreciate and allow that feeling of appreciation to open up all the channels. So I'm appreciating the littlest thing. A big thing to appreciate is thank you, thank you, thank you, God, for leading the way. Thank you so much for answering my call. Thank you so much for showing me where to go. Thank you so much for moving these roadblocks. Thank you so much for being that energy that flows through me as me, for healing my body, for creating that massive abundance, for creating this great love that I am, that I receive, and that I give. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And be in that appreciation. The more you appreciate, the more that you will feel that feeling of all of your cells igniting with this vibration. I don't know how to explain it. The only way I can explain it is like if you've had an orgasm and you feel that full body thing, it's not that, but it's similar. It's this whole body vibration of energy that is, it's like the fullness of you. So that's part of your homework. Keep opening up to that appreciation for anything and everything. Does that make sense? Yeah. My battery's about to run out. So you guys okay? Hi, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right. So you've got your homework set. I'm going to be back here next week. We'll be back on. You can always find the link on newmontcenter.net on that calendar page. You can just click in there and the link's always there. And next week, we've got more to dig into. There's a whole bunch more slides on here.